Today on the Tom Kelly Show podcast, we are going to discuss Don Lemon's sexist remarks about whether or not Nikki Haley is past her prime. Am I going to say something stupid that puts my foot in my mouth, or am I going to say something so profound that I make you cry? You're going to have to experience the show to find out. Here we go. Trigger warning. Spoiler alert. We are primed for some prime puns. You are experiencing a subprime edition of the Tom Kelly Show. Yes, this is the podcast that is going to break the prime directive. This is why I don't do scripts, people. I stutter, I stammer. But this is the podcast where one comedian, me, Tom Kelly, owns the midlife crisis and life's transitions. I am known for my work at The View, Good Morning America, America's Got Talent, and a million other TV shows. And I'm a man in transition. I'm looking for what's next, and this is the podcast that seeks life advice and gives unsolicited opinions on things. And Don Lemon's foot going into his mouth. His remark about Nikki Haley being a 51-year-old woman who is past her prime to be running for presidential office, or for president, whatever the friggin' fancy word is, that remark about a woman being past her prime at 51 is what this podcast is about. First, let me get the BS added away on Nikki Haley, so this way we don't cancel me in the first 3 minutes of the show. The Nikki Haley remark is sexist. And it is agist, and it is disappointing. She is a politician. She is not a stripper. And honestly, the Don Lemon remark, he could have justified it. There could have been extra things he said at the end to make it less offensive, and he did not do that. Or he could have made the comment more specific about the Republican base and that they were ageist. No, Don, you sat there like an idiot, flailing, and and listen, giving Don Lemon some credit right now. The world is after Don Lemon. Everybody hates him for some reason. I don't know him. I don't watch his work. All I know for sure is he's a openly gay black news anchor on CNN, and he was nice to my mom at a party at Whoopi Goldberg's house. He sat next to my mom. My mom had no idea who the heck he was, and he was pleasant. And he was pleasant. But the remark itself, as I talk about Lemonist Prime, again, as a comedian, I need to jam in the prime puns. Lemonist Prime, he broke the prime directive, and we are primed for a great conversation. What he said was sexist, I guess. And it is ageist, and as a man who, I'm 46 and a half. I am closer to 50 than I am to 25. I am actually closer to 50 than I am to 45. No, we'll do the math later. I'm closer to 50, though, than I am to 30. Whatever the numbers are, those are the questions that I've had in my head since the beginning of the pandemic. Am I past my prime? What's next? Is there something big happening for me? And you get into things that have inspired me over the years. One on the woman front. My mom is 70-something and is still working, educating people, who want to be educators out of college. Is she past her prime? I worked at The View, which it's funny. After Barbara Walters passed away, we've been allowed to say certain things out loud and openly. Barbara Walters was not just a pioneer for women in television. She was a pioneer for old women in television. She worked till her 80s. And, if I worked there with her for 7 years, I can't tell you how many times I've heard remarks from people saying, hey, when is she going to retire? She pushed it to 80-something and frankly was better at 83 and a half than I am at 46 and a half. We get into the remark of whether or not it was sexist or what are the timelines. And I'm in therapy a lot for this. My therapist, Dr. Cheryl, and I, we talk about the showbiz timelines. And I was just talking with a new acquaintance who is a local news anchor, and even she used the phrase aged out. And, you know, there's something that, you know, when we talk about the things that Don Lemon didn't say, is we are in an ageist and looksist society. And again, this is the Tom Kelly Show, the home of the war on the attractive. You know, we prize good-looking women, and we have, at least in the media we consume, said they're at their best looks historically from ages 20 to 50, and people are starting to break that barrier publicly. You know, again, I worked with Barbara Walters, who was going till 83, and and then there is the double standard of, we say men are at their best looks from 30 to 60, but have we thought about just how we prize good-looking people? You know, in this age of media and whatnot, how we let good-looking people, the popular kids from school, run our damn lives. Looks matter, man. And I'm not saying, and that is not a good thing. You know, I mean, listen, Fox News. I mean, now listen, if Don Lemon had said, Nikki Haley is appealing to a base of voters that watch a network where all the women at Fox News have to go get their dress out of the dress room. You know, if he said that, I'd believe it. If he said Republican voters may or may not be sexist, you know what, man? We just had a president just 3 years ago who used the phrase grab her by the pussy. I mean, listen, if he said something like that there's a lot of sexism in the Republican Party, and is she past her prime for those voters, I might have considered it. And again, man, it's our double standard on Democrats and Republicans, and wherever you're watching your TV and getting your news from. Are the people you get your news from the best reporters out there, or are they the best average of smart people and good looking? I mean, there are no unattractive men or women on TV. Or actually, no, there are, I would say, arguably no unattractive women. And and there are very few unattractive men. And what do I mean by that? I mean, let's be real, and let me get myself canceled on my podcast. When was the last time you turned on the TV and said, wow, that's an ugly bastard, or that's an unattractive person, and then said, wow, but they're really smart, and I'm going to consume what they have to say? That is a double standard in our society, and as a man who does not consider himself that attractive, it hurts, I mean, I've made the joke for years, my meanest joke that I've ever said, and I kind of regret it, but I really don't. I used to call a reporter named Jim Dolan on ABC Channel 7 the least attractive man on TV. He is the only local reporter that I know of. Actually, I can name one other, maybe, a woman named Penny Crone, who was on Channel 5, and she was older and had the unfortunate last name of Crone, and people on the radio would say, that Crone, Penny Crone, But I know Jim Dolan is a great reporter because Jim Dolan is the only man on local television here in New York allowed to look like a real human being. He is bald. He is not skinny. He is not Botox to hell. And Channel 7 sends him to all the stories that require a good reporter and at inconvenient times. If there's a burning building, Channel 7 Eyewitness News sends Jim Dolan. If there's a chance the reporter could die, ABC, Channel 7 Eyewitness News sends Jim Dolan. Okay, now, if there's a fire at 3 a.m, send Jim Dolan. If it involves puppies or interviewing models, we'll send in Sam Champion or Sade Batterlinois. Okay, Jim Dolan. Only person allowed to be a real human being on local TV that I can think of. You know, and again, people, I think it's the same in politics. Like, can you name a really like unattractive person in national or statewide politics? Nancy Pelosi is a stylish politician, and I find her kind of beautiful. Actually, I find her beautiful. What do I have to justify with a kind of? She's a beautiful woman who has a great sense of fashion. We could go through the list. I'm now trying to think of some older politician. Biden. Biden's he's got the hair plugs, but he's got the good-looking used car salesman look. Maxine Waters is a good-looking woman. Hang on, I'm going through John Fetterman. There you go. John Fetterman is allowed to look like a real human being, but I'm going to even argue John Fetterman. He's the senator who ran against Dr. Oz and is now the senator from Pennsylvania. He's like 6'8" and big and walks around in shorts. And he walks around like a working class, I'm a bit schlubby, I'm your man. But even his look is a bit shticky, I mean, listen, man, and this is all of this stuff is said out loud as I'm wondering, am I past my prime? I may have told the story on the podcast before, and it's relevant in my war against the attractive. I asked a big shot at ABC, a nice man, a good guy. I asked him, we were both kind of tipsy at a Christmas party, and I asked him if he could put me on the TV show he produces more. And I'm funny. I was warming up crowds there for years. I got my bones here and there. And this guy looked at me and said, Tom, I can't put you on TV with that hair. And I was shattered. He was drunk. I was drunk. And I don't, being blunt for a minute, man, I could probably, he even remarked later that I could have called human resources on that remark. But it was also the truth. Yeah, I mean, let's face it. We give good-looking people more of a chance than the smart. And now if you can find a way to be smart and good-looking, poof, there's your career. If you can find a way to be good-looking and funny, poof, there's your career. And even the unattractive people we know in comedy, it's a little different because now the looks are shticky and there's an it factor, blah, blah, blah. But when I got that remark about my hair, I was crushed. I mean, I started going to a better hairstylist, Greg Gianillo. You're magical. And certain things started happening with my career, where I felt I was getting on TV and getting bones more, blah, blah, blah. But, again, a couple of weeks ago, old white guy, got that remark, again, folks, and listen, I'm letting my hair go gray, but I promise you, I'm going out to Los Angeles in April, and I will be using the Just for Men that's in that closet right over there. Without defending Don Lemon because he did a crap job of saying whatever the hell he was thinking, we are in an ageist society. We are in a looksist society, and you know what, Nikki Haley, at 51, as a 46-year-old who's right behind you, man, I don't know enough about you, ambassador or governor, whatever, except that, actually, I know one thing. I know that you are the Republican who took the Confederate flag off the Capitol in South Carolina before it was cool to tear down or intelligently remove tributes to the Confederate States. So you know what, man? I'm paying attention to you, and I wish you luck. But we are in a looksist society, and we are in an ageist society. And that brings me to the absolutely stupid comment that Nikki Haley made that started this whole darn conversation. Nikki Haley was saved by Don Lemon's sexism. Nikki Haley was saved by, Don Lemon's sexism because Nikki Haley said a socially acceptable and incredibly stupid political remark. She said, while talking about Joe Biden, she felt she might have been in favor of politicians over the age of 75 taking mental competency tests. One, I do understand the human body does degrade as we get older. I do understand our mental capacity degrades as we get older. And having a president or any political office holder take a competency test is the dumbest idea I've ever heard, and we need to pay attention to that and stop it while we can. First, it is our right as Americans, and this is the danger of democracy. This is the danger of George Santos. This is the danger of Donald Trump. It's the danger of Joe Biden. We can elect people who turn out to be unqualified. That's democracy. That is the danger of Alvin Bragg here in New York as our DA. When you're not paying attention to who you're voting for, idiots can get through. And I don't believe there should be an arbiter of who gets the job. I mean, who's going to give out these mental competency tests? We're going to trust a government official to do that? We didn't even trust a government official to advocate for vaccines. I mean, what is Dr. Fauci going to give the competency test? That's a man we don't quite trust if you got a Johnson & Johnson vaccine. You know, I mean, democracy is dangerous in the hands of an uneducated electorate. Democracy is a land where when there's no good choices, a weird choice is going to get through and the senile person could become president. And with that theory, God is crazy. So, I don't know. That's and again, that crazy remark is a distraction from the theme of the podcast. What is prime? It's a number you can't divide by 2. Thank you, math nerds. No. I mean, I spent 2 days kind of writing a draft for this script. That's why the podcast is a bit behind this week. What is prime? Prime means, I looked it up on the Google, most energetic and most productive part of your life. That's the definition of prime. The most energetic, most productive part of your life. And I think you can be in your prime at any age if you make an effort. I mean, am I in my prime? I'm not, but I can be. I mean, listen, I let myself get out of shape. You know, I've lost a little bit of my motivation. I get tired easier than I used to. Now, I have an uncle who I've only met a couple of times, lives far away, one of the Irish uncles. And he was a carpenter, and we had a powerful conversation that I think about a lot. He was in his early 70s. He was a carpenter, and we were talking about age and growing up, and I had to be, I guess, in my 20s or early 30s at this point. And he was just being very frank about looking at his life and, you know, his age. And he said he felt like the best, actually, I want to get the quote right. He felt like his 50s were when he felt like he was at the top of his game. And I remember that phrase, top of his game. And, you know, and then he went on to explain why. He had experience, but he was still young enough to do things. And he had people who respected him because he had experience. Now, I Googled the best years and couldn't quite find as quick of an answer as I did for the word prime. For me, best years is when you're kind of at the top, and you may not know you're at the top. You know, like I always hate the word, I like the word peak, plateau, top of a mountain. I like the word peak because peak doesn't have to be the only peak. You know, if you do some real mountain climbing, like a real man like me, there are lots of peaks when you climb mountains. You know, you could hit one peak, and then you go down a bit, and you go back up, and you hit another peak. You know, and again, were my years warming up TV shows my prime? I'm going to say by that definition, they don't have to be, but were they my peak? You know, and again, I guess prime and peak, it's all how you judge. I think peak is a judgment by others, and prime is a judgment you make for yourself. Most energetic, most productive. Whether or not people are consuming that productivity, that goes into another category of peaks and bests. But Nikki Haley, are you in your prime? I think that's a choice you're going to make this year. Am I in my prime? You know what? It's a choice I'm making again. I'm going to exercise, and for you guys, exercise, work out, do things, create, grow, be prime. All right, my friends, that's the podcast. Tom Kelly News. Check my TikTok and Instagram every day. I'm posting stuff. I am shadow banned on the Instagram. We'll talk more about that in the next day or two. So if you want, go look by 5 o'clock every day. There should be something new. I have a couple of things generating a lot of traffic on TikTok. I'm actually proud of beating the algorithm there. And then the other ask is, if you liked this podcast, genuinely share it with a person who might like it. Genuinely share it on your social media. Genuinely share it in your Facebook groups, Reddit threads, or wherever you talk to other people. And that's the big stuff, people. And again, I know it sounds crazy, but I genuinely appreciate all of you who reach out and tell me you're a part of this journey. Thanks to your support for this podcast, you have helped me think, you have helped me grow, you have helped me meet new people, and you have challenged me to do new things. And thanks to you, the Tom Kelly Show podcast supporters, I am in my prime. Magic Mirror. I see Marianne, who has been pitching me a couple of crazy new ideas the last week. I see Fred. I see Carrie. I see Jack. I see Natalia. I see Caitlin. I see Sammy. I see Brian, who just fixed his podcast app and is catching up on Tom Kelly Show podcasts. And most importantly, I see you. New podcasts every Monday and Wednesday, except for when there's not. And we have some good guests coming to this very kitchen table over the next couple of days. So I think you're going to have some good shows that you're going to enjoy soon. So until next time, friends, good night, New York.